Welcome to our Saturday Simulcast Sunday night version with Tom Dienhart. I want to thank the Union Club Hotel. You're going to get concurrent Union Club sponsorships because Brian Newbert will be doing post-Minnesota his rap video as well. The Boilermakers with a 20-point win over the 19-point win over the Golden Gophers this afternoon in Mackey Arena. Tom, a busy weekend, a long weekend, a late night, all those things. Purdue when the shoe drops, so to speak, Purdue ends up where we thought they would in Orlando to face LSU. Brian Kelly's Tigers 9-4 and Purdue 8-5 going into that game. I guess I just want to ask first, what was your initial reaction? We kind of thought this was coming, but it's an interesting matchup. Depends who all plays and how many opt-outs you have, but still an intriguing matchup. And playing in the Citrus Bowl is a big deal for Purdue. They haven't been there since won't have been there for 19 years by the time we get to January 2nd, 2023.
I can't believe 19 years goes by so fast. That seems like it was yesterday.
I know.
It's a prestigious bowl, Alan, and the highest pecking order Big Ten bowl outside of the New Year Six.
Right.
Jerry Palm told me they usually like taking 9-win teams. Obviously, the Big Ten didn't have one available to them this year, with Penn State getting the Rose Bowl bid and the two playoff teams. So it's a pretty prestigious bowl. Of course, back in that day, Alan, Purdue lost in overtime. It was the Capital One Bowl.
Right.
Now it's the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. And not to confuse people, but there also is a Cheez-It Bowl.
Yeah.
Occurs at the same venue, I don't know, a few days before. So nonetheless, I'm excited, Alan. I understand, like you pointed out, who's going to show up for both teams. Who knows? My goodness, that's almost a month away, which seems like an eternity with what could happen to these rosters between now and January 2nd with opt-outs, guys hitting the portal. Who knows, Alan? So, but I just want to focus on the name brand of LSU.
Yeah.
That should perk your ears up. And I love it, Alan. I love it when Purdue plays these name brand schools. They're the games I always remember, the games against Georgia, like the games against USC at the Pigskin Classic. Even the games against Arizona and Oregon State and Oregon. I love it when they play Power 5 teams. And here's LSU, my goodness, one of the top 10 programs in the country typically every year. I don't need to explain their pedigree to the viewers, the listeners tonight. So I think it's cool as heck to get to measure yourself against a program like LSU, even if they may have a depleted roster. I don't care. It's going to be fun playing a name brand like LSU. Of course, Alan, they're coached by a familiar name in Brian Kelly, who just beat Purdue in 2021 as the Notre Dame coach.
Yeah, it's interesting that we talk about depleted rosters, and we don't know who's going to opt out on both sides. Still early, to say the least. But it also gives the thing that's kind of now changes these bowl games a little bit is that it's now an audition time for some of these. And certainly LSU's got talent in second and third teams, and there's going to be guys on Purdue's team that are going to want to have their chance. We saw last year some guys really come to the fore for Purdue, so it makes for a whole different dynamic just because you don't know exactly what you're going to see. We're 4 weeks and a day away from that game. And yet that is a storyline. Certainly with LSU with that 9 wins, beat Alabama, certainly knocked Alabama out of the playoff without question. Lost late in the year, didn't play as well late in the year, lost to Texas A&M down the stretch, got beat by 20 in its SEC championship game. And Jaden Daniels, their outstanding quarterback, Arizona State transfer, had an injury in that game. Don't know if, again, we got a long time to go before this game, but it is like you said, a brand name team with a pedigree, and Brian Kelly is paying a boatload of money to win national championships there over time. One would think that's their goal. So, you've watched a lot of big time college football. This is an opportunity to play against it. Even if you're not playing against all their stars, it's a team that's going to put a good roster on the field.
Yeah. And there's no doubt, Alan, LSU is ahead of schedule, right?
Yeah.
Nobody expected them to win the SEC West this year, which they did. So, they were a surprising team, and Brian Kelly really had to turn over his roster. And in modern football, we know you can do that with the portal, and he certainly did that with great aplomb. And Yeah, I tell you what, you talked about the opportunity for some other players. I think last year, Alan, was Sanusi Kane getting a start at cornerback, playing over 100 snaps. Remember Brock Thompson, of course, was the MVP after David Bell that opted out. That was a game, Alan, as you remember, no George Karlaftis, no David Bell. They opted out. Branson Dean was sick. Their offensive tackle, Greg Long, he was out as well. And Dedrick Mackey, the cornerback who Sanusi Kane played for, he was an academic casualty. Milton Wright didn't play. I mean, he's got a laundry list of great players, and Purdue still found a way to win that game in overtime, 48-45. So who knows, Alan? A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to play LSU. We're going to get blown out." Who knows? I mean, that's the beauty of it. And Brian Kelly, back to him real quick, Alan. He left Notre Dame for LSU for one reason. He won a lot of games at Notre Dame, Alan. He's the all-time coach. But you know what? He figured out, it took him 12 years, that he still is not going to win it all, even at Notre Dame. He can't get that level of athlete that he needs to beat the Alabamas of the world, the Georgias of the world. That's why he went to LSU. He knows at LSU you can get those type of athletes, and you can win national championships at LSU. And that's why he walked away from a great situation in South Bend to go to Baton Rouge. Again, the payoff came quick this year. They're like Purdue, Allen. They're playing with house money at this point. They're not supposed to be here as West Division champs. Purdue certainly was a long shot to get the Big Ten title game. It did too. So these are two division champs who sort of exceeded expectations that I guess are looking for a jump start and even bigger things next year.
Well, you look about a bowl game and you hit the nail on the head. January 2nd, I don't care who you put out, your brand gets put out there. And that is a big deal because there's a lot of people watching football that day. You may be going head to head with it a little bit on the Outback Bowl earlier, an hour earlier, but a lot of eyeballs on you for much of that afternoon leading into the Rose Bowl. Those kinds of things. No matter who you're putting on the field, it's important that they see that gold and black uniform or that purple and gold or whatever LSU's official colors are. That's a big deal for the program. It's hard to minimize that.
And this game for Purdue is on over-the-air television. It's on ABC. Yeah. Right. Where the bowl in Tampa, the old Outback Bowl, the ReliaQuest Bowl, is on cable.
Right, ESPN.
Yeah, so that tells you the difference. If you're looking to separate prestige, if you're on over-the-air network or a cable network. And again, this old Capital One Bowl, which is now the Cheez-It Bowl, Citrus Bowl, is always the more prominent bowl. It's one of the biggest bowls that's not a New Year's Six bowl that occurs on New Year's Day. And it's got a prime spot on over-the-air ABC television for a reason. And like you said, Alan, it's a great chance to market yourself as an institution and get your brand out there from coast to coast on ABC National over-the-air television.
Well, and Jeff Brahma even talked about that yesterday after the Big Ten championship game. Sure, it was disappointing to lose, but he kept talking about what a great experience it was for his program. And I think that also is hard to minimize in terms of what you're trying to do. If you're Jeff Brom trying to build your brand, he's got to have some work to do next year. There's no question that Purdue's going to have some challenges next year. Got a tough schedule to start out. You look at that first 7 games. And they always say the bowl game is that first game of the next season to some extent. And that's that chance to set the tone. And Purdue's going to have challenges in those 7 games because in those 7 games to open up the season, I think Ohio State and Michigan are in there, and Wisconsin. And you've got that. So that I agree. That's going to be I think a good thing for Purdue and a good thing to be on that national television stage. That we go back to that 2004 game. Purdue battled back from what would have been the greatest comeback in Purdue history. They were down 24-0 to Georgia Tech, got that game back into overtime, had a chance to win it down the stretch. And of course, Georgia got the job done at the very end. But this is that was a great comeback. You remember Kyle Orton had a finger injury, had to bring in Kyle Smith to throw the football one pass in that game. I remember that game quite vividly. But that's a big time opportunity. And obviously with Walt Disney World and everything else that goes on down there, a big thing. I want to get the last thing before we let you go, just on your impression of last night. Obviously, Purdue fought hard, I thought, made it a competitive game. A couple, they would talk about 7 plays to open the second half, really set the tone. Certainly, Michigan's really good. We saw that. But I thought Purdue, for the most part, they played hard, and I thought they did some really good things offensively, especially.
Yeah, you're right. I think what you said just moments ago about Michigan being a really good team.
Yeah, that's really good.
Jeff Braun said the same thing. I asked him about having to settle for so many field goals, why they got bogged down in the red zone so often. Well, because Michigan's pretty good. They are pretty good. They've done that to a lot of teams this year. That's why they're 13-0, ranked number 2 in the country in the playoffs. So, yeah, you're right. But you know what? But they moved the football, Alan. They outgained Michigan. They had like 84 plays to like 50-some odd plays to Michigan. Typical, move the ball between the 20s, but they couldn't, again, get the 6 points. They had to settle for the field goals too often, Alan. 5 of them by Mitchell Finneran, which was, of course, a Big Ten title game record. And I'm sure, I know that tied a school record.
The modern era, right. We had to change it. Yeah. E.C. Robertson against Rose Poly in 1900 had 7 of them, Tom. But I'm guessing, I know field goals were a little bit different then. But yes, you're right.
Yeah, I think our old West Lafayette Red Devil, Jonathan Briggs, had 5 in a game once. To go beat.
No, I think he tied. I don't mean to correct him. I think it was Rick Anderson against Michigan State.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Jonathan had 4.
They moved the ball, and I guess the vaunted Michigan defense. A lot of positive things there, obviously, with the way they were able to matriculate up and down the field. Just couldn't get touchdowns. 14-13 at halftime. You love where Purdue was at. Only a 1-point deficit. But Allen, first play of the second half, Donovan Edwards hits around the left end for a 60-yard run. The Purdue D-back was right there to make the tackle, didn't make it. And off and away Michigan was. Allen, they outscored Purdue, I think it was 29-9 in the second half. So they just sort of imposed their will on Purdue after a while. And again, trading field goals for touchdowns wasn't going to work. And just a powerhouse Michigan program. They even have Blake Corum playing the best running back in the Big Ten. Hats off to J.J. McCarthy. He can extend.
He's really good.
He's good. Ronnie Bell, good tight end. On and on you go with the plaudits from Michigan. They're going to get to go on an even bigger stage here. I think against Texas Christian. So we'll see how they do against Sonny Dykes' team here coming up shortly here in about a month or so.
Yeah, it's interesting. Last comment, J.J. McCarthy, really good. Jaden Daniels, assuming he's healthy, assuming he plays, also really athletic quarterback for LSU that caused Alabama some trouble. This is going to be a similar situation. I was really impressed with McCarthy. I thought his scrambling ability was Elway-esque, kind of, maybe not the same kind of arm. I don't know. I'm not good at evaluating those things, but I just thought he was really, and he didn't throw it all that often. They didn't, they picked and chose their spots. And he had a couple drops in there where he'd had some really big numbers. Yeah.
LSU's, I think, a 5-point favorite as of right now. No idea what they're basing that on, given so much uncertainty around these rosters, I'm sure. But I'm sure that line will change. I'm sure LSU will always remain a favorite. Probably is just going to depend on how big of a number that is by the time we get to January 2nd.
All right, Tom, you have been doing yeoman's duty and then some with little to no sleep. We appreciate that. We will be, I guess we'll have tomorrow. We'll hear a little bit more from Jeff Brom at 10 o'clock and some reporting there. I know they'll be out recruiting here in the near term. Jeff said his team is going to take a little bit of a break as well.
Yeah, they're on the road recruiting today, I know.
I
know Jeff Brom was in Kentucky with several other coaches. So they're visiting commitments. And again, the big thing for viewers to obviously they know this too. The transfer portal, probably going to see some Boilermakers hitting it here as soon as Monday. How many? There's all types of speculation out there. So keep that on your radar. Purdue's obviously going to have to add transfers as well. And December is just a real busy month with guys coming and going through the portal. And then, of course, December 21st, I believe, is the first day for high school kids as well. So just a lot going on in December, in addition to all the bowl preparations for the football team, too.
Yeah, no rest for the weary, but we appreciate your effort. Okay, well, we will put an end to this Zoomcast. We appreciate the Union Club Hotel, the 811 Bistro, Boiler Up Bar. And Tom and I need to go down and have a good cup of coffee down. They have really good coffee there as well. And near the 811 bar as well. So thanks again. We'll see you we'll be on probably next week. We'll have a little Saturday simulcast to talk football, basketball, and then some. Of course, Purdue men's basketball. I think we'll be at Nebraska next week on Saturday. So have a great week, everybody. Lot to look at on the site. If you haven't subscribed, first make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. But also, if you want to become a member of goldandblack.com for $1 whole, you can do so. We can say truthfully, we've had thousands jump over because of Tom Dienhart and Brian Newbert. We appreciate that. And we're going to have, and that number will continue to grow because that offer will not be going on forever. So make sure you take advantage of that. So, all right, have a great week, everybody. Thanks for watching or listening. As Brian always says, or however you process our information, we appreciate you out there. And we're getting close to the holiday season. So it's December. We'll all be getting ready for that. So have a great week, everybody. Thanks so much.